Hi, I'm Abigail Furst, and we're interviewing Matt and Suzette Furst from the Permian class of 1978.
Hi.
Okay, so the first question, what was the spirit like in the halls of Permian on a Friday or a game day?
It was very spirited. Everybody was ready for the football game. They had the pep rallies in the morning, and it would set the tone of the day for all day. Everybody was very festive. The boys were in their jerseys. The cheerleaders and pepettes were in their uniforms. The majorettes were in their uniforms. We got to wear them to school all day long. So everybody was excited and ready for the game that night.
I look forward to Fridays because you got out of class to go to a pep rally. And we always look forward to the football games on Friday night because it was fun and everybody went.
Okay. Were the Permian players idolized or treated differently than everyone else?
Definitely. They were looked up to by every little kid in town because they all wanted to be Permian football players. And in general, they were held in high regard by most everybody in town, and certainly the faculty and teachers at Permian.
And the student body.
Yeah, student body in general.
Okay, Mom. What was it like being a Permian cheerleader?
It was a lot of fun. It was, I loved it. I had a great time with it. I was with my friends, and the friends that weren't cheerleaders my friends were pepettes. There were only 5 girl cheerleaders at that time.
What were the tryouts like, and how have they changed since now, to how they are now?
Well, they used to try out, let's see, it was right after football season. They would try out, and they had 3 seniors and 2 juniors. So let's see, how was it? No, it was at the end of the year, I guess. No, it wasn't. It was right after football season, and they would try out, and you would finish the year and do like basketball and baseball and track, and then the following year you were football. And if you were a senior, and it was your senior year after football, you were done with cheerleading. But anyway, it was a lot of fun. It was, like I said, only 5 girls, and it was, just fun.
And it was a vote of the student body. The student body voted, and if they voted you in, you got in. There wasn't teaching or judging.
Well, you had to make good grades. You had to, be able to try out. And then there were a lot of girls that tried out, and we would try out in the auditorium on stage. And different people, could hold up signs, kind of like they do now and stuff. And then everybody went back to their homeroom class and voted. And then at the end of the day, they put all of the girls into a room, and they announced it over the speaker who made it.
So you said it was harder back then because there were only 5 positions.
Right.
So it's pretty big if you made it your junior year or your senior year.
Yeah. It was only 5 spots out of all of the, however many we had, like 600, 700.
It was harder too because the student body voted for you.
Yeah.
You had to get a majority of the students to vote for you in order to win. So.
It was fun. I mean, it was an honor to be a Permian cheerleader. It was.
They were all great-looking girls.
We had a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. It was one of the highlights of my high school career.
Okay. Dad, did you feel like you were more of an outsider since you didn't play football?
Definitely. You were definitely treated differently. So it goes back to question number 1. If you weren't a Permian football player, then you weren't held in high regard by a lot of people, and the teachers. I won't say that they were mean to you or that sort of a thing, but you just weren't the same as a Permian football player.
Yeah. Okay. Do y'all feel Odessa was more spirited for Permian back then or now?
I think back then.
I think it's always been spirited. I mean, it was very spirited, and football was it was all about football, it seemed to be. I mean, a little bit about basketball and track, but we didn't have soccer back then. Tennis was there, but it was primarily football.
And for the town, it was much more of an entertainment on Friday night. There wasn't a lot to do here, and Permian had the best football team. They competed at the state level. They were back then only one team came out of the district to represent the district and went into playoffs, where now there's 4 come out of every district. It was just a little more intense, and there was a little bit more, I want to say, town support. OHS wasn't as good at football or that sort of thing, and so when it came around Friday night, it was pretty much Permian football. There wasn't much else to do in town.
And everything kind of stemmed from that. And like when we would win district, we would get the bell.
Yeah.
And that kind of started boys being down there on the field with us. They were the bell crew because we would win the bell because we were district and you'd hold on to it for a whole year. And so it started having boys down there. And then the Panther would be down on the field with us. And that's kind of when it started mingling with the boys and girls of having guys involved. But it was a whole, I mean, it was a whole community of everybody supported it. We had, you know,
In general, the
the
town,
bonfire and
you wouldn't go to a football game on Friday night unless the stadium was packed.
it was always
It was
packed.
full every Friday night.
That's just what you did.
It wasn't an empty seat.
And everybody traveled to every game.
Yep.
Okay. Have the academics evolved since the 70s? If so, have they got more difficult or easier?
Yeah, they're definitely involved. Academics are much more a part of high school, I think, than we were there. In that no one in my graduating class had 30 hours of college credit by the time they graduated. That just wasn't done. And, you know, Bowie and OHS and AP programs have all come along since then. So academics is much more a part of the school district than it used to be.
And grades were important, but it's nothing like it is now. As far as what y'all are learning compared to, I think, what we learned. It seemed more basic back then.
We didn't do all that learning in school.
We did,
Definitely.
but, you know, it just wasn't as academic, I don't think, as it is now,
No.
which is good. I mean, now it's good.
Okay. Mom, what did the cheerleaders' duties consist of?
We would make run-through signs. We would get together once a week in somebody's garage and have butcher paper and make the run-through signs and tape them to the poles. We would practice. The Pepettes did all of the stuff. Back then you could do things for the football players. They would decorate their lockers, decorate the locker room, make them brownies, make them signs. But the cheerleaders basically just to promote school spirit throughout whatever organization, you know, was happening, whether it was sports or academics or choir.
They ran the pep rally.
We ran the pep rallies. The pep rallies were always fun. We were in charge of that. And just promoting school spirit and promoting mojo.
Okay. Mom, did you ever date a football player?
I did. My high
Okay.
school boyfriend was, well, 2 of them that I dated were football players.
Wow. Okay.
If you were a football player, you could date a cheerleader.
They were very nice
It was one of those
boys.
advantages of being a football player.
But I didn't date them because they were a football player. They were fun, but they did happen to be football players.
Okay. Dad, what type of social groups were around in 78, if any?
You know, the social groups, as I recall, were, we called them the socialites, which were pretty much the athletes and the cheerleaders and that group of people who were involved in athletics. And then we had sort of the cowboys, who there were a lot of cowboys out here just by where we live. There were a group of academic people who you might call the nerds. And then there were a group of sort of antisocial people who were called the freaks. Back then, a lot of people had long hair, and there was a smoking section at Permian, and things were just a little different back then than they are now.
Yeah. Okay. What did y'all's experiences with Friday pep rallies consist of? Were they positive or negative?
They were very positive for me. I had so much fun. We would plan them, and every week a different cheerleader was, you know, in charge of one, and it set off the Friday, you know, fun day before the football game and stuff.
I mean, in general, it was part of Friday, which was always good because you knew the weekend was coming, and we always looked forward to Friday nights. And you know, the pep rally again for me was pretty much a way to get out of class, so I liked that because we weren't in class. So, but I wasn't the most spirited kind of person.
He was spirited in his own way.
I was spirited in
You
my
were.
own way.
Okay. How involved would y'all say you were in Permian?
I was totally uninvolved.
I was very involved.
Completely opposite.
Opposites attract.
There.
That's it.
Well, I mean, but you were very academic, but he wasn't. He was more freak, whatever. But
Right.
he was very smart, very academic. He just didn't flaunt it. And then a little bit antisocial, but I was friends with everybody. We liked everybody. We all got along.
I got along with a lot of people.
Yeah, it didn't really matter what group. We had friends in all different groups, and to me, that is the spirit of Mojo. It made the school.
She was more an insider and I was more an outsider. That's how it was
I
back
got
then.
along with everybody.
You got along with everybody, yeah.
You did too.
But I'm not sure that stood for me. I mean, it was easy to be an insider and get along with outsiders than it was to be an outsider and get along with insiders.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Things were cliquish back then, and they're just like they are now, right? I mean,
yeah.
you're in a clique, and that's the way it worked.
Okay.
But it was hard to get into the social clique.
Well,
It was fun.
It was
that
fun.
concludes all of our questions.
Hand me my
So,
megaphone.
Mojo.
Hand me my megaphone real quick.